Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. Today's tutorial I am going to talk about the servers or the containers. In the last tutorial I basically talked about the concept of the servers. The servers are there to handle the request coming from the clients, and they handle it by sending a response to the clients. Now in Java world, the servers can be of two types. One is the web container, which supports servlets and JSP pages. Example of web container is Tomcat. On the other hand, application servers provide some additional functions such as the EJB and message-driven beans. Example of application server is WebSphere application server. So now let's look into this, that we see that these servers is simple web server such as Tomcat, and that handles JSP's servlets. Okay. On the other hand, we can have an application server. So the application server is broader. Its domain is much bigger than the web server, and example can be WebSphere app server, or we can have the WebLogic app server, and so on. Okay, there is another one is called the JBoss. All right, and in all these application servers, what happens? They serve the JSPs, the servlets, and some other stuff such as the message-driven bean or the enterprise Java beans. Okay, we call that the message-driven bean, and this one is the enterprise Java beans. Okay, so what happens is the JSP and the servlets are being run in both the cases, but these are more like called the business components. And these business components, in order to run, you have to have a sort of application server. In case of the Tomcat, this one is free, and application servers are not free. The WebSphere app server and WebLogic app server, these are, you have to pay for it. And the JBoss is, there is a version that is free, but in order to get support from the for the server, you need to have some sort of licensing fee. Okay, so that's about it. But in our case, we are going to use the Tomcat web server because we are going to deal with the JSP and servlets. And always remember also that these components, the JSP and servlet components, these are also the server side. Okay, these are server side components. Okay, now in our example, of course, we are going to use the Tomcat web server. The next thing is the Java web application that runs on a web container and is a collection of static contents, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, servlets, JSP, Java classes, and jar files. This collection is then built to make a .war file. We call that the web archive file, and deployed to web container. Okay, so now if we go and see here, let me bring up a new paint, and then we can say that there are a few things: the static components, and the part of the static components are the HTML, CSS, etc. Dynamic components, and we have the servlets, JSPs, tag libraries, and we have the simple Java classes, and then we have some libraries and the libraries will be coming as a .jar file. And why do we need the libraries? Because let's say you would like to use the tag library. Okay, so let's say you are going to use the tag library, and how you are going to use the tag library in your application. You have to import some sort of .jar file. Okay, import and put in your app. Okay, so we have to bring a lot of libraries in terms of .jar file, okay, and put that in our web application, so that in the jar files we have so many classes and we can use those classes in our application. So all of these things, okay, all of these things we do what? We then compile, and then we create a web archive file that is called a .war file. Okay, remember this is the outcome when we have compiled our web application. When everything is done, okay, we get this .war file, and then this .war file is deployed. Okay, so we deploy to Tomcat or any other web application server. We deploy to Tomcat .war file, and then we can see the application in the web. So again, there are the static components, the dynamic components, and the libraries. We put together everything. We create a .war file out of this after the compilation, and then we put that in the Tomcat directory. Okay, and then we can run it. Now if we go to the previous one, you can see that Java web applications run inside a web container. Container provides a Java runtime environment for Java web applications. The container acts like a JVM for the web application. On the other hand, the container itself runs inside a JVM. So the basic thing here is that we know that the class files run within the JVM. So whenever we are creating the WAR file, okay, this web application is running inside a web container, and this web container is kind of acting like a JVM for our application. So if we go and see again in the picture, let me open a new one. Okay, so if we see in the picture, let's say that our class files, what do they do? They run inside a JVM, which is a Java virtual machine, right? And again, the web application, web app, which is a .war file, okay, and that also is running inside a web container. Okay, we have to remember that this web application is running inside a web container. And where is this web container? This web container is running inside the web server. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.